So they signed off on this 9-game conference schedule, and they were promised a 16-team playoff, and that did not happen. This is what I was trying to push this entire conversation about going to a 24-team playoff. We can just stay with what we have at 12 teams, which is working completely fine. Welcome back to another episode of Wyatt Zang's College Football Show. We're here for a full SEC and Big Ten spring meetings reaction. I'm going to be breaking down everything that was talked about and ideas that were flown around during the SEC and Big Ten spring meetings. Like I said, this is a full reaction show towards the meetings that we had and what each commissioner said, what each coach said. We're going to be going over all of that in today's episode, so make sure you guys are subscribed. And if you enjoy this video, make sure you like the video and get down in the comments, as I will be down in the comments answering your questions. All right, let's move right into it. So, as I said, this past week, the SEC and the Big Ten had their spring meetings. There were some things thrown around between conference commissioners, Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, some coaches of the SEC had some things to say, some university presidents had things to say, so we're going to dive into all of that right now. I wanted to start by basically taking a quote of what people said and breaking down what they're trying to say here. So we got a few here that we're going to go over. It's not going to be the longest show in the world, but hey, I wanted to get this done as an episode. All right. Starting off, Eli Drinkwitz had something to say. He's the head coach at Missouri. This is what his quote was. He said, "Shoot, I remember last year we were told if we went to a 9-game conference schedule that the Big Ten was going to vote to be a 16-team college football playoff in 2026, and I think we're still at 12-team playoff. I don't get caught up in all that stuff," said Eli Drinkwitz at the end. End quote, by the way. So what he's saying is that there was a broken promise or a broken rumor that the SEC basically said, hey, if you sign on to this 9-game conference schedule, the Big Ten is going to go to a 16-team playoff. Basically what they're saying here. So Missouri's head coach, Eli Drinkwitz, says, you know what, that sounds great. I'm going to sign off on that. We'll go to 16-team playoff. We'll take our 9-game schedule. It is what it is. We'll do it. So they signed off on that. 9-game schedule comes in to the SEC. Eli Drinkwitz turns around in 2026 and says, still a 12-team playoff. We haven't moved to 16. What is going on here? So he's trying to show that there was a promise to every SEC coach that signed off on this deal. I'm sure they had to get all of them to sign off on it, or else they couldn't have done it. So they signed off on this 9-game conference schedule, and they were promised a 16-team playoff, and that did not happen. So what he's trying to say is, the broken promise, like we were supposed to have a 16-team playoff, and we don't have one. So what's going to happen here? Are we going to go back to an 8-team schedule or 8-league schedule? Like, what's going on here? So what I'm going to try to break down is the SEC is still pushing for a 16-team playoff. That's been their stance the entire, off season, basically. That's been their stance, is 12, stay at 12 if we disagree, go to 16, no more, no less. The Big Ten says, we want 24, no less, 12 if we disagree. So there's no common ground. There's no, agreement there. So 16 teams is probably off the table. I think we're between 12 and 24. 24 seems to be off the table because the Big Ten wants 24, but the SEC wants 16, and you can't expand the playoff without both of those entities agreeing. So basically, we're at a stalemate at this point, and we're not getting anywhere as long as I see it. So that's what Eli Drinkwitz is trying to say. And at the end of that, he said, quote, I don't get caught up in all this stuff, end quote. Basically what he's trying to say is, I'm trying to focus on what I can control. He's trying to focus on the things that are in his control. It's Missouri football, how their season's going to go, Spring practice is wrapped up. Spring games are wrapped up. They're getting into, fall camps coming soon. They're trying to turn their focus to this upcoming season. And you can't blame him for that. Because the college football playoff, whether he likes it or not, it's probably not as much up to him as it is up to the commissioners. Now, the commissioners answer, they have to have the coaches in agreement, but he's trying to say, I'm not in control of that right now, so I'm going to control what I can control, and that's Missouri football. So that's Eli Drinkwitz this week. Now we can move on to what Greg Sankey said. He had a few different quotes that we're going to actually touch in this episode. He had three. I have three Greg Sankey quotes that we're going to go over. The first one, Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, said, quote, "The 2014 college football playoff plan is short on data to back it up as a smart idea. And the potential, listen up here, the potential devaluation of the regular season is among the chief of concerns." This is what I was trying to push this entire conversation about going to a 2014 playoff. This is what I've been basically preaching every single episode on this channel. You can go back to every single playoff segment. This is what I was preaching. We did a full playoff segment last week, or full playoff show breakdown last week on Monday. And I'm back here with Greg Sankey agreeing with what I was saying. This is exactly what I'm afraid of. This is what he's afraid of, is the regular season, which is the best part about college football, being devalued. That is the biggest concern, because there is no regular season in any sport like the regular season in college football. There is none other like it. So his concerns are the exact same concerns that I have. If we go to 24 teams, that creates more access for more teams, meaning if you have a lesser record, you're still getting into the playoff. Those 9-3, those high-end 8-4s are getting into the playoff, as opposed to 9-3, 8-4 being, you're not even close to the playoff. That is not how it should be. It should be 9-3, 8-4 aren't close to the playoff. It should be, you got to have a 10-2 or better record, and even some 10-2 teams, going back to the Vanderbilts, the Notre Dames, they got to have really good wins against top teams to get into the playoff. So you see what I'm saying here? It's going to devalue, because then there'll be games where you'll have 11-1 Ohio State goes to Michigan, and Michigan's, I don't even know what Michigan would, or let's say 10-1 Ohio State goes to Michigan, and Michigan's 9-2. It doesn't matter who loses that game. It doesn't matter who wins that game, because either way, they're both getting in the playoff. 9-3 Michigan's in, and 10-2 Ohio State's in. No matter what, Michigan might even get a home game, and so will Ohio State. So it doesn't really matter. Like, it takes value away from games. Now, I know those big rivalries, like I mentioned, Ohio State, Michigan, are always going to have big implications on the game because they're rivalries. And they're always going to have that extra bit of hatred towards each team. I understand that. But it will just be in the back of your mind thinking, as a fan, at least, thinking, hey, if I lose this game, we're good. We are getting in the playoff. We might even have a first round game at home. Michigan, you end 9-3. Hey, you might get a game on the road. You might get a game at home. So it definitely devalues the regular season a little bit. So that's what Greg Sankey's kind of concerned about, and that's the same thing that I am concerned about. Okay. Next up, I wanted to hit something that Tony Petitti said as the Big Ten commissioner. So what he said is 16, this is his quote, 16 is not an option. I'm fine with remaining at 12 or expanding to 24 teams. Petitti also noted that the 24-team format could push the Big Ten to a growing 10-game conference schedule. So basically, the SEC wants 16, not 24. The Big Ten wants 24, not 16. So it's a big old mess of, I want this, not that, and this is saying, well, I don't want that, I want this. It's like two children fighting over toys. Like, at the end of the day, we can just stay with what we have at 12 teams, which is working completely fine. We don't have to move to 24. We don't need this new shiny toy because the old toy at 12, which is not that old, it's only 2 years old, still works perfectly fine. If not, it's better. So the 12-team playoff has a chance of remaining, as I said, because if these two teams can't figure out, or these two conferences can't figure out a way to agree on a format, whether it's 16, 24, whatever, they can't agree on something, it's just going to stay at 12. So there's a chance of a 12-team playoff continuing. Obviously, it's going to continue throughout this year, but this year and years to come, there's a chance at 12 teams staying. For how long, we don't know. Now, the big Tony Petitti also noted in here that says Petitti has also noted that a 24-team format could push the Big Ten to a grueling 10-game conference schedule. I'm going to be the first one to say 10-game conference schedule is 100% not needed. Like, that is not an incentive for the SEC to say, hey, we'll go to 24 teams now because you guys are going to do 10-game conference schedule. No, we do not need that. Now, there's been something floating around between the SEC and the Big Ten doing a schedule agreement. So I've seen that thrown around, and that would be phenomenal, by the way. I'd love to do some, potential games, like my top games that I would want to see. Maybe do that next week. We'll see. Let me know in the comments. But a 10-game conference schedule in the Big Ten has no impact on my opinion of the playoff whatsoever. So there it is. Moving on to the next one. This is Greg Sankey again. Wow, look at that. He said, quote, "That's the end of Cupcake Weekend. We never got that one sponsored, though. It's 9 conference games and a recognition that you're populating more weekends. You really cannot have odd numbers of open or non-conference dates later in the season because then that has a backward domino effect." End quote. I don't know why that was tough to read for me, but basically he's saying no more Cupcake Week. Finally, we are not having Alabama versus Samford, Georgia versus UL Monroe, LSU versus UT Martin. We're not having that anymore. Okay, that is not going to be what Week 11 looks, or Week 12 or 13 looks like. That's not going to be the week before rival week anymore. Thank the Lord. Oh my gosh, that was so annoying. So we're finally going to get some quality conference games that week, or whatever, non-conference games, but they're going to be competitive, somewhat games that week, finally. All right, moving on. This is the Georgia University president. So Jerry Moorhead, I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce his name. He said, quote, "If federal legislation isn't enacted to curb, be ready to vote on creating an SEC mechanism and SEC rules. That's what we have to do." End quote. I'll let you sit on that. If you want to reread it real quick, reread it and really think about what he's saying there. Okay. Basically what he's saying is the SEC would threaten to break away. I don't think the SEC is ever going to break away because that is just so insane to think about. I don't think that is ever going to happen. I don't think that the SEC will say, hey, you know what? We're going to take our ball and go home. I don't think that's ever going to happen. The SEC, it's not going to be the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12, and then the SEC. That's never going to happen, okay? That is never going to happen. I've never been afraid of that happening. I hope we never get to a world where that actually is a thing that has to happen, or else if we get there, that means something horrifically went bad in college football. But I don't think we're ever going to get there, so that's not like my concern. I wanted to touch on this and kind of reassure college football fans that this most likely is not going to happen. The SEC most likely isn't going to break away. I don't see a world where that happens. I don't think that the SEC will have the guts, basically. Well, I don't want to say that because they would do it, honestly. But this is just the Georgia University president saying this. So this isn't like Greg Sankey saying this. Now, I believe that he kind of did hint to this, but I got to say, I don't think that it'll ever come to the fact where the SEC has to break away as its own entity. I don't think that'll ever happen, but I do think that there's a world where some roles will be changed and each conference would kind of get their own roles, and that's kind of what we have now. It just needs to be all one covered thing called college football. Get rid of the NCAA and have this big sport entity called college football, where you have the G6 and the P4, and it's all surrounded by this bubble called college football. Not NCAA college football, just college football. So that's my take on that. All right, one more quote here, and then I wanted to get to my final takeaways. Like I said, it's not going to be the longest show ever. We're going to be around that 20 minutes, but hey, just wanted to get this out. Maybe we'll do another show later in the week. I don't know. We'll see. This is Greg Sankey talking, by the way. He said, quote, "I think you've probably heard frustrations over the transfer portal. Yes. What's eligibility now? Is it 5 years? Is it less? Question mark. Those things have to be addressed in some way that's legally defensible. 3 dots. And provides for some level of equity and competition," end quote. This is basically saying that we need to address, he's 100% right in saying this. I agree with him. There's a lot of things that me and Greg Sankey actually agree on. A lot of people hate this guy. But if you're a 12-team playoff, fix the transfer portal and NIL proponent, you cannot hate Greg Sankey because everything he's saying is perfect. He's saying basically that we need to address other major issues in college football, not the playoff. Aside from the playoff, there's bigger issues like transfer portal, like NIL, like, the calendar, getting recruiting back. There's certain things in college football that are way more important, and I'm talking way more important, than a man-made playoff. We do not need to expand the playoff. I'm fine at 12. We need to address the bigger issues in college football. Like I said, the transfer portal. What can we fix in there? Limiting portal players to 1 transfer per player, which is actually a bill that's trying to be passed right now. The bill is basically going to be saying that you can have a limit of 5-year eligibility, or a max of 5-year eligibility, 5 years of eligibility, and a max of 1 transfer per athlete, per player. That bill, if it gets passed, is the best thing to happen in college football in a long time. I think that will really fix the portal, that will fix recruiting, because then now if a team gets kids will start to think, all right, I really got to be smart with how I use this transfer, how I, what school I recruit to, what school I commit to, and how I use this transfer. They really have to think about that now. Another thing would be salary cap. I think that would be a great add-on in college football to just add more of an incentive in terms of spending your NIL appropriately and not just throwing it all on like $10 million on one player, like Darian Mensah got $10 million, and then maybe have some restrictions kind of on that. So I think Greg Sankey's 100% right in terms of fixing things that need fixed, instead of fixing things that really don't need fixed because they're not really broken, like the playoff. The calendar is another thing I love to fix. Figure out a way to have the championship game closer to New Year's Day, around that, January 1st to January 5th date. Then we get the recruiting, and then we could have the portal. That'd be my perfect setup. Coaching carousel would happen right after the national championship game. That's my perfect world. But again, we're not living in a perfect world, so that is not the case. But yeah, so here's my final take. Let's just go over this for a few minutes here. My take is the 12-team playoff is the sweet spot for the sport right now. But the constant urge from power brokers to expand it even further risks breaking what makes college football special. So I am a 12-team playoff guy. I am all about earning a spot, not just getting a spot. It's earning a spot. You have to earn that top 12 ranking, or top 11, I guess, if you get rid of the G5 team or whatever. So you have to earn that top, we'll say 12. You have to earn that top 12 spot in the playoff. That's what I'm about. I am about earning, not getting. You have to earn it to receive it. So, that's my take on the playoff. I think if you expand it, it devalues the regular season, and you're getting into territories that are unable to come back from. Because once you expand it, you can never contrast it. So that is my take on the college football playoff. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, a really short show. We're going to be around 20-some minutes, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you get down in the comments. I will be down in the comments answering all your questions that you have about anything in college football right now. Let me know. Drop the comment below. I will be in the comments. And like I said, hope you guys have a great start to your week, as it is Monday when this comes out. Also, comment below what time you want me to air these shows, to premiere these shows, because I've been trying to test some times, doing mornings, doing, midday, doing evenings. I don't know what you guys like, whether you like it, in the mornings or evenings or midday. Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you guys next Monday for another episode of Wyatt Zang's College Football Show. See you guys then. Have a great start to your week, and God bless.